My name is Amiena Peck, and I'm excited to be here with our amazing guest, Natalia Volvach, and my co-host, Amy Hiss. You are listening to CMDR's podcast at the University of the Western Cape in South Africa, where we interview guests who have starred on our linguistic seminar series. And it's an exciting space, which is a collaboration between CMDR and the linguistics department at UWC. But that's enough from me. I'm passing over to my co-host, Amy Hiss. Go ahead.
Thank you, and welcome again, Natalia. So just to give our audience a brief sense of your research, so your research intersects between semiotic landscapes, critical sociolinguistics, and linguistic ethnography. And in particular, you explore the ramifications of Crimean annexation on language and space. And in your research, you attempt to illuminate the complex histories of conflict over the Crimean Peninsula and engage with the materiality of absence in semiotic landscapes. So before we delve into unpacking your research, we would like to know about you as an individual. Who are you? What are your interests, your personality? What do you do in your spare time?
Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you, Amiena, for this amazing opportunity to come and talk to you today. Also, thank you for this generous introduction and for the chance to talk to your colleagues at the seminar series a couple of months ago. So who I am? I have recently graduated from at the Center for Research on Bilingualism, and I defended my PhD thesis, as you pointed out. So now I'm in the process, in the transition process in between my PhD and in search for new opportunities, but also for new projects. And to be honest, I don't want to start something new because the war has been ongoing and the war has been silent in my work, in my research so far, including the landscapes and materiality, as you said. So I really want to keep thinking about it and keep theorizing it, keep engaging with it.
Thank you so much, Natalia. And one of the things that struck me, so just a little bit of background for those of you that don't know, I saw Natalia's presentation in Germany last year, the LL13. I went to a lot of presentations that week. And I'm not saying this because I absolutely think Natalia is amazing, but in that presentation, at the very end, the applause was so loud. I thought it was never going to end because you had such an impact. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You had such an impact on everybody there. And this really leads into this idea of, bringing in the researcher and allowing us to meet you there. So here you gave us a sort of, an introduction to you, Natalia, the person. But in that presentation, I would like for you to speak a bit more about your processes when it comes to dealing with something that's such an emotive, a topic, and dealing with things that, as you say, as you conceptualize it, the void and the silences. So can you speak to that now?
Yeah, I think, thank you so much. Thank you for this feedback. I feel like I cannot hide myself and cannot not bring in myself, my whole body and my emotions and affect into what I do. And at the same time, I feel that as a researcher in semiotic landscapes, as a sociolinguist ethnographer, I see it as a huge asset in a way to be able to make sense of what is around us and what is going on through our whole body and through our histories. And I think that we can find means to do it, including to sensing voids and filling voids with meaning, seeing them as significant. Yes, I hope that answers your question. I think, yeah, it's a kind of, it's writing and doing research is embodied and visceral. We cannot pretend it is not, because if we do pretend, we simply reproduce the old assumptions about rationality and the division between body and mind. And I do not believe that we can do it. And so we shouldn't, including not in our presentations as well. I mean, yeah.
And I totally feel that when I'm at the linguistic landscape or any presentation, it's usually that first 5 minutes when somebody just gives you a little informal background or right at the end, and you're like, wow, that's it, that's the exciting bits. And so when you presented, it was all of that. And when you, like you say, you are an asset to your research. It is an embodied experience, and for those of you that are listening now that want to get into LL, you'll see that I am definitely into advocating for autoethnography and really bringing in the subjective realities and seeing them as valid, because I know a lot of researchers, not only in linguistic landscapes but in other disciplines as well, tend to move away from that because they strive for objectivity and all of these things, forgetting that, of course, we also hold a lot of power within us. So that's my own, but then I'm just being sneaky now because clearly that's how I feel as well. So what made you think about looking at the voids? What was that first moment that you started seeing what was not there? Because that's quite an abstract sort of entry point for a lot of young scholars.
Thank you for this question. I think it's difficult to pin down when exactly I started to think about the void, but just recently there was a paper that I published on shouting absences, and there I start my narrative by recollecting a moment when I was on my fieldwork in Crimea. I went for lunch in a Georgian restaurant, and all of a sudden I heard Ukrainian music in that time and that place. And it struck me because all of a sudden I thought, why can I even hear this music in the place which has been occupied since 5 years, in a place which doesn't tolerate difference, not to say the political difference, and doesn't tolerate Ukrainian positions being articulated so clearly. So for me, that music was a kind of a reminder that reminder of the revert, reminder of the emptiness which could have been filled with some meaning. That was the first instance when I realized that I was in search for traces of something what has been previously in Crimea and what was gone. And during my fieldwork, I came across many instances, many traces or remnants, one could say, of the Ukrainian statehood, which was under erasure in the Crimea, becoming Russian, in the Crimea turning into a Russian entity. So I started, of course, recording all those encounters in my fieldwork diary, in my notes, and tried to document what it meant for me to see and to sense the presence of these remnants in space. So I tried to account for my emotional responses, for my experiences, for my thoughts, which could occur when I would see a remnant of the past. And sometimes these would be not only visible traces or audible traces like the sound of music. Sometimes it would be very clear case of erasure when you would see nothing but holes in the wall left by a sign plate which has been taken off and never replaced. So I started to pay more attention to those kinds of systemic erasures in space. And afterwards, when I wrote that paper on shouting absences, I tried to present a more coherent case of how those absences, how those voids can be seen not as simply dead matter, but also as such which speak back to me, speak and affect me and my body. And that's how I came to call them vibrant voids, because instead of voids filled with nothing or with no meaning, they were very much like outspoken for myself.
That's beautiful. Amy, I don't know if you want to add there, but I just wanted to say maybe it's a good segue to one of my students, Kristen Clark. She's listening now or later. She was so inspired after your talk because it made her reflect immediately on herself and her body and her feelings within her own space. So she was in Thailand and she was collecting data and looking around, and her body has been, so let me just say, it has been tattooed as well, but with Muay Thai semiotics. But it was read so differently after your presentation. Started to really look at, to consider her own positionality and who inked her, for example, and where she was. And so it was such a moving experience for her. And so I think this is the thing about linguistic landscapes that is so captivating, is that when we start to notice things, that's when change can happen. If we don't notice something, like we don't notice that there's something missing, the plaque has been taken off the wall, there's just screws no, that's when we miss the message. And like you say, it was screaming at you. So I think that's such just a very important point there. In LL, it's all about noticing, and sometimes something points you the direction of something else. So you have to be really, really present. And that's why I love what you were saying about you being an asset and the experience being embodied. So thank you for that. Amy, do you want to jump in?
Yes, definitely. And even the way you speak about it, the emotion that comes out. And so maybe for us that don't really grasp the context that well, what is, in your opinion, what is the most important or the fundamental message that you want your research to relay to readers?
I think maybe if I consider the audience who is listening to us now, and I assume they are all interested in research, I think the main message would be that what we do matters a lot, and what we see and don't see matters a lot, because we have power as well to make something visible or to silence something. And I feel like with the voids, especially and with any sorts of absences in any time and place, we commit justice or injustice by simply directing our attention to something. So I feel like it's very important for us to remain aware and self-reflexive about what is going on around us and about the societal issues happening. And I think what I also learned through my field work is that I know so little about Crimea. And even though I'm not coming from Crimea, I'm coming from a neighboring town, Kherson. And I learned about myself a lot through this research, what is important for me. And I learned about the boundaries of my criticality because I noticed that even by asking questions, such as, for example, in my first article, I asked, is it still Ukrainian or already Russian? it was as if I was already prescribing the ways I could see. And only through my research with participants who happened to be predominantly from Crimean Tatar ethnic group, I could also learn about other ways of seeing and being, of other histories, which also mattered for people in that particular place. So I think we have to keep wondering and keep searching and researching and keep being curious about what is going on. I think yes, that's a more broad, I would say, a more broad message. But if I go to my thesis, it was of course extremely important for me to show how the injustices take shape materially and through language and through the absence of language. Yeah.
Beautiful answer. I think, Amy.
Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, so in your presentation and earlier on, you mentioned that, you would like to continue on doing this type of research. So what does it look like in the future? What are you hoping to focus on more as you move forward?
Thank you for this question. Indeed, now I'm working on a special issue proposal with Caroline Kerfoot, and we try to bring together contributions from across the world, from different geopolitical contexts, which look at spectral landscapes populated by ghosts. And I think that it has, as we know, a lot of resonance at the moment, because many researchers have been interested in this spectral turn in linguistic landscapes. And I feel like an additional attention to materiality and the absence and spectral thinking in around materiality and absence would allow us to even more unsettle these distinctions of what language is, of fixity, fluidity, of mind and body, and so on. So I feel like I could contribute with my research in that area, and I really look forward to delving into it even more.
Fantastic. And you made me think about Sunny Bock and Chris Stroud's work on zombie landscapes. I remember when they first floated that title, I was like, wow, that's so cool. But of course, they were talking about the South African context in post-apartheid South Africa, where Black people still feel, still feel a certain kind of way in specific spaces, maybe not feeling like they are good enough or feeling out of place, basically. And so it's so, and that's why it's so interesting to go as far as you can in LL, because you can't just, in my opinion, it is okay to take pictures and analyze that. That's one way of doing it. And I'm not advocating for, that can only be, this particular way, but that is one way. But then if you want to get a little bit deeper, we have to have that interaction with others, but then we also have to have that interaction with ourselves, where we reflect. And we also are, like you say, curious about our own thoughts and the way we see the world. And what is our philosophical view on life, and how does that also feed into the way we are in this world, the way we live, and the way we do research. So you can hear I'm a big fan, as I've said before.
Likewise, me too. Huge fan.
Yes, and so I wanted to ask you, wherever you are in your journey right now, who is the one theorist? The person might have passed on or is still alive, but that you'd love to just sit and have coffee with and discuss your research and where you'd like to go with it. So
extremely difficult question. Oh my God. No, very difficult. I really don't dare to say because
Okay, I will say that I'm sure there's many people that come to mind. But we can only choose one. So
hmm.
Dead or alive?
Yes. Well, I would say Judith Butler, for example, or Sarah Ahmed. Sarah Ahmed. I would love to talk to her.
me
Yes.
too. So maybe
No,
one day
really.
Sarah Ahmed would hear this, she'll be like, she'll talk to us, to you, and then hopefully I'll also be somewhere in the restaurant. But so what is it about her work that that calls to you and that makes you wish that you could sit down with her?
That's I think that's being honest with yourself. Being honest and registering what it is, what you feel, what it is that makes you feel in certain ways, what it means, and how what you do matters, I think. So this is a phenomenologically inspired work that she writes. For example, what's the use, or queer phenomenology, which I find extremely interesting. And when I start reading it, I just can't stop nodding because I identify a lot with how she writes and what she writes. So yeah, I think I think that I kind of go into the core of experience. I think that's what I like.
I love that. I think there's so many quotes that you've just said, like in this entire podcast, that I just love. You can just pick it out, being honest with yourself, seeing yourself as an asset, you know.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to make it like sound like a TED talk because, but it's
but
just.
For somebody that's new to talking off the cuff, I must say it's quite a delight to talk to you. And we're going to talk about, yes, and we're going to make it even a little bit more spicy, Amy. I think that's why you're smiling like that.
Yeah, so just to end it off, we want to test your knowledge as a linguist. So what I'm going to do is, so I have the alphabet in front of me, and I'm just going to randomly close my eyes and let my pencil land on the letter, and I'll tell you what the letter is, and then you'll just have to, on the tip of your tongue, mention a theorist or a linguistic term. Okay? So I'm going to give you three, so it's not going to be like too hectic.
Let me take a sip of water. Wait.
Okay.
Yes.
So while you're sipping, I'll be okay.
Yes.
So it's N, the letter N.
N?
N, yes.
N like Natalia.
Yes, N for Natalia.
Yes.
Okay. And should it be the first or second name?
Anything is fine.
Anything.
Okay, nothingness. Nothingness is a term.
Oh, I didn't see if she was going to say. I thought she was going to say Noam Chomsky.
Okay.
But I
Let's try again.
It's awesome.
I was going to say, like, you already mentioned yourself.
No. I wanted to make sure that I heard.
Yeah, because you know the M and the N can be
you
quite close. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go for the second one.
Oh no. Okay.
It's a T.
T. Okay.
T.
Team Ingold.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. That can be
Okay. The last O.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yes, that's
Oh, right. Or like you know this term like onomatopoeia. I don't know.
okay.
You know
Okay, but is it a linguistic term though?
It is.
Okay. But do we work on the term?
But don't ask me what it means because I don't know.
Onomatopoeia. Oh yes, knock knock. Yes, that's what it is.
Oh, so something that sounds like
it's
something.
Absolutely a linguistic term.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine if your PhD defense was like this. Okay, now I think it's a lot more rigorous.
Yeah, I can say that my PhD defense was less challenging than this podcast, because at least I could prepare, you know?
I love that. I love that. Okay. Oopsie. Before we leave, let me just say a quick thank you again to Natalia. Oh, and do you have any advice for Amy? Because she was going to ask you as a PhD student.
Yes, and not just me,
And not just
like for all our students. Yeah. So maybe just to end off, just can you give us a sense of what your PhD journey was like? I mean, we can already establish a sense of what it was like, but what was the thing that pulled you through? How did you get to the end?
Wait, I don't know how. There was
I mean,
no
the
other way.
same boat.
There was no other way not to make it, because
Yeah,
I think it's just, yeah, it's okay.
you just have to do it.
Yeah, you had to do it. I think what I learned through my PhD, what I wanted to mention when you were asking the question, is that what I learned is that it's not all up to me. It's not really only in my hands that I finish this PhD. Because when I started, I thought, right, I know approximately what I should be doing. I know that I have to deliver some texts to present and so on, present at conferences. Of course I can do it, but then on my way I learned that many people are involved, many also unpredictable circumstances come along your way, and you need to deal with them. And it's really maybe not being as tough with yourself. I think it's really about also getting to know you and allowing yourself to take your time and to think and to evolve.
Yeah.
Because I think all the time we push ourselves, and I did myself as well, and I think it's important, but we also need time to come to our senses and really take a moment to breathe, as Amiena says.
Yes.
Because I'm following your podcast. Take a moment to breathe, and definitely please take a moment to breathe and really like ask yourself, is it exactly what I want to do right now? Is it how I should be doing it? And do I have people to talk to who can support me? I think this is super important, to have a team that you can go to, and then you can get help from, support to talk to, and or like some more serious help. I don't know, but we all need support, and that's what I learned.
And I
Definitely.
just to say that last year you mentioned that you fell in love with the process. I remember we were having dinner at the LL conference, and you said that I fell in love with the process of doing my PhD. And I was like, you know what they say, if you're having fun with something, it's no longer work. It's just like what I do. I get up and then I do this, and then before you know it, you're in it, and it's part of your identity. And I know you, Amy, and it's definitely part of your identity.
Yeah, because I mean, there's definitely moments where I'm like totally at a loss, and then there are moments where I'm like, oh, I'm going to,
Crash it.
it's going to happen. And yeah, but definitely you're right, speaking to other people and having a support group, I think, especially for PhD, it's like, please, let's like gather a meeting or something.
Yeah, I think the team is such a nice way of putting it. Like, because we are a team. I don't believe in saying we're a family, but I do believe in saying we're a team, and that's like when people do get their PhDs, like we feel that with you. We know the struggle. If you didn't have a struggle, then it's not a PhD, man. We want you to have earned that stripe. So I'm really sorry about the late nights and the headaches and the fears, but we all went through that in order to be where we are. So again, a huge thanks to Natalia for this wonderful, wonderful podcast. I feel like
Thank you so much.
Chilling, speaking to my friends, except it's about academic stuff. So, and thank you, Amy, my amazing co-host. And as always, well, as you finish your PhD, and to you, to your next chapter, Natalia. I hope to see you in Spain if you're going to be there.
Yes, we see each other in Spain.
I'm not going to be there.
Next year.
Yes, no, I'm taking time to complete what's important.
Perfect.
Thank you. And to the listeners, thank you so much. And if you want to continue listening to this conversation and others, please follow us on the CMDR on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future discussions on interesting topics related to multilingualism, diversities, and of course, linguistic landscapes. You can also give me a follow on Instagram at Amiena Inspired. I welcome everybody there. And thank you so much, Natalia. Sending all love to everybody. Thank you so much. And we will chat soon.